Yeah. It's because what happened is the other one didn't finish really, and then I thought it did. Okay, I still need to get familiar with this, but I promise, ladies, I'm updating this. I completely forgot last week. I'm updating this because these 40 minutes are not long enough. I just find out. For me, I like to not have time limit, so I will update this from next week, but I'm going to repeat the question. Uh, oh, were you looking at my at my presentation, by the way?
No, I wasn't looking at the presentation.
Oh, really? Because I did have a presentation. Oh, no. So you were not looking at these sheets that I was reading in here, no?
No, I couldn't see that. And I thought it might be, a good question. Sometimes people...
I'm gonna have to upload the presentation on a separate sheet. Sorry, girls, my head today has been a little bit all over the place. But well, so we are recording this one. We have the presentation, and this is just the previous recording. So I'm gonna put it here, and I'm gonna repeat the question. So Nicola's question was, how long is an optimal strength training session should last for? So
Yeah.
I reply that it really depends. If you are completely new to strength training, you need to start building up your resistance to resistance training, or actually your endurance to resistance training, mainly because we want to guarantee that you are able to recover from that session fast enough for you to be able to do minimum 3 sessions a week. Okay, so if you then go too long because you decided, yes, this is it, I'm gonna start today, and you go all out, you warm and pumped, and you don't feel what is going on, and you just keep going. And that's why these personal trainers, sometimes they want to show how much they know by literally killing someone on the first taster session. But in reality, that's the worst thing that you can do to someone, because they're gonna be in so much pain for so long that it will take them a whole week to perhaps being able to get back to train again. So either you're gonna put them off from strength training because they will say, oh no, this is too painful, or second, you're not gonna be smart because I mean, 1 hour training could have been 3 days of 30 minutes training, when in reality more frequency is what we want when we first start building strength. It's not so much about how long you train for, it's about how frequently you are actually getting those muscles stimulated. Now, as I was saying, we have people with different health conditions, especially people who have hypo or hyperthyroidism, or the so-called, this is or so hypo or hyperthyroidism, or the so-called skinny fat. So skinny fat is these people that you see them eat all type of rubbish food and they are super skinny, they never put on weight. But in reality, if you were to do a calipers body fat measurement or a body scan, most of their body weight is actually body fat, and these people can reach up to 30 to 40% of body fat, even when by your eyes it looks like if it was a skinny person. So these type of people in reality, and the ones that suffering from hypo and hyperthyroidism, they shouldn't do longer sessions than 1 hour, because of the impact that will have on the production of the T3 basically, and also on their ability to recover once again. And second, people who is skinny fat is, you are skinny fat, it means that you have a very fast metabolism. The reason why you are skinny fat is maybe because your food choices are not the best. That's why most of your body composition is fat rather than muscle. But if you then get these people to start training strength, they might lose the fat very fast, because the fat you lose is faster to lose fat than build muscle, and then that might leave them looking like really like a homeless dog basically. So you want to keep the length of the training a little bit shorter than someone who perhaps wants to lose weight and they are a little bit more overweight, just because well, because otherwise the level at which the fat is dropping and the muscle is building is not the same rate. So you don't want to leave the skinny fat person too skinny that then it becomes unhealthy, or also it as well makes the recovery from the session a little bit longer. Now, when we talk about someone like yourself, someone that has been into any type of exercise, and myself, I will say, you and I, we are in the same category. We are the people who truly enjoy exercise. We are people who don't do it just for the sake of enjoyment, but truly because we need it. I mean, we enjoy it. We need it for our mental health, and we are good at it, and we are passionate about it. So because of that, we might sometimes fall in the trap of thinking that more is better. And it happened to me in the past when I used to train like literally like 3 hours a day, and everything was heavy, and I used to train every day, and I used to be the one that say no rest days is for the weeks, we can do this. Day number 7, no rest day, and I'm here in the gym, and I used to feel really proud about that, until then I have obviously chronic fatigue, and make me question everything that I was doing, and then putting things in perspective. Nowadays I say that I'm training less, but I take 2 hours on my training session. But that is because I really like to take my time to activate the muscles on my warm up, like yourself, Nicola. I also like to follow the tempo by the dot, so I like to feel my muscles. And because we train to lift, we tend to lift heavier as well. It means that if we do have a superset, it will take us a little bit longer to get to the working set than what it will take to someone that lifts less than us. So to answer your question without confusing you too much, yes, there could be um, an option that you might be training too long. No, if you're training with me, because I calculated your volume and your intensity um, to every program that I do. But for example, with Jana, before I knew about her condition from the beginning, but I didn't know about the impact on recovery that her condition caused it. And the only way that we find that out was by the last mentorship that I did, and also because it was a time in which she wasn't recovering, her sleep was low. And then I actually started to be concerned, and I did a further reading on her condition, and I then realized that we shouldn't have her on her cortisol being high for more than an hour. So that's why whenever we're training with her, she needs to send me the report of how long the session took, and how long she was on that high threshold. And if I see that that high threshold is too high for too long, I will then reduce the intensity. But it doesn't mean that her workouts are any easier than yours. It's just different levels. But I still get everything out of Jana, and she still gets lumps on the first day of the first block. It's just knowing I mean, I wish I could have a much simpler answer to your question, but yes, there could be a potential if I leave you on your own devices, knowing you, there could be a potential that you could be training too much. And how do we know if you are training too much? These are the things that we need to then start paying attention to, and that would be that your strength stalls for a while. It can be as well that you start lacking motivation to train. It can be that your sleep start to be impaired. Or it can be that you start having like chronic fatigue, like you feel fatigued the whole time. That means that perhaps your training is too long, or the volume is too much, while you are going through a very stressful time of your life. So that's why the importance of having a coach to report to, and the importance of the weekly check-ins. So the weekly check-ins are there for the coach to understand what went wrong, because the coach doesn't know everything. In fact, this week I started a new client, and it was my fault to overwhelm her with what for her she was completely new to training, and then I lay out 6 days of training. For her it was 6 days of training, when in reality they were only 3 days. But because they were laid out in a way that I say walk, train, walk, train, walk, train, she got super overwhelmed, and she say, I told you I don't have time. How do I'm gonna fit 6 workouts in a day? How? And then I say, calm down, calm down, calm down. So this is not 6 workouts, but she will perceive it as a 6 workouts. So then when I break it down into, in reality, this is the only thing that I'm asking you. I'm asking you for 3 hours of your week, only 3 hours of your week, for us to get started. And the days in between, I'm getting you to walk so you get a faster recovery from the workout, and also because of the goal she had. Okay. But I explained in the past that in our kind of category of athletes, there is not such thing as an athletes. We still be in gen population. We don't train for any competition show, or we don't train for any competition at all. So we are just gen pop training to clear our minds, because we enjoy it, because we care about our health, and we care about our look. In that case, there is no such thing as overtraining. There is such thing as under recovery. And that's why I stress so much the fact on the importance of recovery. And recovery is not only not training. Recovery means going to bed every day, hopefully same time, so you manage to have a good sleeping schedule, making sure that you're eating enough calories that are going to allow you to recover from your workout and carry on with the stress factors of the day. Making sure that you are having supplementation if needed, for example, omega-3s, magnesium, zinc, creatine is amazing when it comes to helping you and accelerating the recovery process. Is the only one that I will suggest. You don't need BCAs and stuff like that. It's not so essential. If you have a good nutrition, you get that from food. And then obviously the importance of including protein in your diet, having a higher protein in your diet, just to make sure that those fiber muscles that we're breaking down when we are training the strength are getting recovered with the protein that we are consuming. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, and I think that was really helpful, and I think that will be really helpful to the new people in the group and the new trainees, because sometimes people fall into that pattern of, training every exercise or every piece of equipment in the gym for like an hour or two, and then they're knackered and then just get put off, training.
Exactly.
So I think that was like really helpful for people to understand, to, build it up slowly, because I think, a lot of us, we pump some muscles and we want to see a result. So I think that
Yeah,
was really helpful to explain, the whole
exactly.
process, because, we're not patient sometimes.
Exactly, and that's why patience on here is important. As everything that we do, you should always do everything you do. You should always do it with a balance, yeah. And I know that when you are at the gym, you pump up with the music, you warm up, so you're actually not feeling what is going on with your body. So, and if you really like want to get things done, you are setting the new goal that you have determined to have your new body for new years and all of that. So you get to the gym and you get to maybe a not very experienced personal trainer who's offering you a taster, and this personal trainer thinks that he's only gonna get your buy if he's gonna leave you like not breathing on the floor with a sweat mark. I have done that with some of my clients, don't get me wrong, but it's because I have known them and I think it's the right time to get them to do that. It's nothing wrong with every now and then getting a session that is going to throw you to the floor, breathing out loud. You can do it like you do every Saturday, because that's also training different energy and muscle fibers from it. When we do strength training, we normally train in the muscle fibers type 1, and then when we do anything like metcon or anything that requires more cardiovascular endurance, we then are training the muscle fibers type 2. So it's important to have both of them. But when you feel like you are left on the floor every day, then that's when then is when things go wrong. So yes, as Nicola just said, for you ladies who are starting, just take this as a very good advice from someone who is very into training, and you should really increase your training progressively. So try to be patient and kind with your body, is what I will say. Now, do we have more questions in here? No. So we do have some questions in the chat. I'm gonna answer them. There is one from Sandra. So Sandra is another skinny fat. And she's not gonna get upset. And please don't get offended when I say skinny fat. It's an actual. Terminology for trainers. So we actually study how to train people that is skinny fat, and skinny fat means people who tend to lose muscle mass like this. So it's really hard to put on muscle mass, and as soon as they get on some muscle mass but they start either eating less or they stop training, the muscle mass is gone and the only thing that is remaining is the fat. And these people is normally by the eye very, very skinny. Yeah, so you wouldn't imagine that they actually have high body fat. But they do. So for this kind of people is what we call skinny fat. Is a normal terminology is used. It's not like I am putting names on people to offend. It's not my intention at all. So Sandra is asking, can people gain muscle mass at home with body weight exercises, resisted bands, dumbbell, etc.? And what I will say to that is yes. And that's my point. So that's why I took you through the different the presentation, and we have to attach it. But if I go back in here, when I was talking about the different types of strength training, we have body weight, we have free weights, we have resistor bands, and then we have machine weights. And these are all different ways to stimulate muscle mass. Now, the difference is not gonna rely or the impact is not gonna rely on the equipment that you are using, but on the way that you are using the equipment. So we know that when we have been used to train at home, at the gym, we normally have the options or the it's more likely that we will lift heavier, and people relate lifting heavier with building muscle mass faster, when in reality it all depends, because if you're lifting too much, if you are going at the gym and you're lifting too much and everything is too heavy, you might actually be doing a lot of what we call negative reps. And negative reps is not the one that you're working on the eccentric part of the movement. It's basically reps that are gonna be locking out reps that you, so basically it's like you have a training session, and every training session is based on, I will talk to you about the pyramid. I'm going to do a webinar about it, but there is a structure as to how to do the volume and the intensity. And so let's say that you had these first blocks, the first 4 blocks were for you to stimulate muscle mass, but you carry it on with another 4 blocks. So what you did here, you stimulated muscle mass, but then in here, because you went too much above, then what you're doing, you are undoing what you did up here. And so you then, although you are at the gym and you think that because you're lifting heavy and your session lasted 3 hours, in reality, what you're doing there, you're just getting fatigued, because as much as you want to get the muscle to grow, there is a speed at which the muscle grow. So it will all rely on how you use this basic equipment. And that's why when we move to home training, we then move to higher repetitions and maybe slower tempo, just to make sure that, and for those of you who don't understand who tempo is the time under tension, or the time that we take on every phase of the movement. And we can play with this to make the exercise harder. And sometimes you will be surprised that even body weight, if you get on a very slow tempo, and the slowest tempo being 7 seconds on the eccentric part and 7 seconds on the concentric part, you can get a really hard workout out of your body weight. So in all out, yes, you can promote muscle mass when training at home. All you need to do really is to make sure that the repetitions and the tempo are reflected within. So if you were, for example, lifting 50 kg on a back squat at the gym, and then you are now at home lifting 20 kg globe squats, then the 50 kg you were doing 8 to 10 reps on the globe squats, you will be doing 15 to 20 reps with maybe a slower tempo. And it's just to create the same type of a stimulus that you will create with a bigger weight. And so yes, Sandra, we can definitely, and we will definitely increase muscle mass. In fact, she did it the first time. It's just that then the second time she just got a little bit of the diet, and with her it's very, very, very particular, because we need to get her to eat a lot, and sometimes I understand that it's not easy to eat that much. She literally have no time on the day to eat the food that she should be eating in order to get the muscle mass that we want to get from her, but that I will discuss with her, obviously, privately. And then she also asked, how do you recommend to balance weights and cardio exercise for someone like me who tend to lose muscle mass easily? And so with this question, and it's funny that she's asking it, because obviously she's getting the program, but for someone who tends to lose muscle mass so easily, and this is how I got her training. Actually, I got her doing 4 lifting sessions currently, like most of you advanced ladies. But with her, I only get her doing 1 cardio session a week. And that cardio is an active recovery, which means that it can be a walk or like slow jog, something really, really easy. And it's just to promote the cardiovascular health as well, and just to promote the type 2 fiber muscles. And I got her doing 1 HIIT session that is only 15 minutes, only and purely because she works on a desk. So I want her to get me more steps or more activity. But if that's how I have been training her. But if I want to change things up with her, and this is so because she's someone who tends to lose muscle mass really fast. However, she's very scared to put on body fat. She also has a very low body fat. So the reason why I had to balance things out the way I have with her is so we can make sure that the weight that we are gonna be putting on is mainly from muscle and not so much from fat. However, you need to understand that whenever you are on a muscle mass phase, it's impossible to gain everything purely just from lean muscle mass. There is an element of fat that you gain when you are in a muscle building phase, and that is the phase that I'm gonna get her to do when she gets back from holidays. And she might get some fat in there, but I know that later on, because now I know her so much, later down the line when we are, because we have a goal for next year of she has a very important event happening in 6 months. So my approach with her, after knowing her now for a while and after changing her body tremendously, but we still want to get even better changes, will be perhaps reducing the heat and getting her to do just walks, as well as strength training, but not so much high intensity training. Any comments or anything you want to add in there? No? So then I go for the last question we have today, and it's from Megan. And so Megan is new to the group, and she is working on her postpartum body, so trying to get back into her shape. She's also a vegetarian, and she is breastfeeding at the moment. So she's asking what sort of macros breakdown would be the best for her to follow. And this one, I'm not gonna go too much on detail, but because she is still breastfeeding, it's very important for mamas who are breastfeeding not to go into a diet mode straight away after your pregnancy. You need to be aware that every time you breastfeed, you actually lose almost 500, you burn almost 500 calories. So breastfeeding is actually very taxative for the body, and so every time you breastfeed your baby, that's why we try to get the mamas to breastfeed if possible. That helps them to lose weight, and also you need to keep a very rich, nutrient rich diet, just to make sure that that meal that we are giving to the baby has all the nutrients that the baby needs. So that's why going into a crash diet right after your pregnancy is a no-no. So I much prefer you to start getting back into your training routine, eating healthier, and making sure that you're eating clean. And to answer that question, because she's vegetarian, because she's still breastfeeding, and the fact that she's vegetarian is already telling me that she will be struggling with getting enough protein, but she will then have higher carb intake, and the vegetarians have adapted their body to cope really well with carbs. So I will do a split of 50% coming from carbs, 30% coming from protein, and 20% coming from fats. Any question as to why this is, or is clear for you girls?
It would be, if you have the time, it will be interesting to hear about that split. Because I don't know if there's any other mums in the group, but that's quite interesting. And she's vegetarian as well. It's really interesting to know why she's got that split, Stella.
Yes, because if you think of the sources from which a vegetarian person can get protein, most of them are actually higher on carbs than on protein. And I'm talking about legumes, hummus, anything that, like, a vegetarian diet is very rich on carbs. And because of this, they, especially people who have been doing a vegetarian diet for longer, for many years, they have adapted their body to digest and cope with carbs much better than people who have not been following this diet. That means that they will be more efficient at using those carbs as a source of energy instead of accumulating those carbs as fat. But we still need to prioritize protein intake. And so if you look at I don't know, for example, I'm not a vegetarian, but I know I can give you, for example, if you look at chia seeds, on the chia seeds, the macronutrients of a chia seeds is fats, carbs, and a little bit of protein. And you will find that in most of the vegetarian meals, apart from tofu, I believe, and eggs, and I don't have on top of my head right now what are the pure just protein products that the vegetarian people can get. But normally vegetarians diet is really high on fat, on carbs. So that's why I will say, because the vegetarian diet is really high in carbs already, and they are good with I forget the words, they are good to use this as a source of energy, so it's not going to impact the insulin resistance. It's not going to affect the insulin's response on the body. Then it means that that they can afford to have more carbs than protein, but it's still having 30% protein. Someone like yourself, Nicola, and myself, we need a higher intake of of protein, because we our training intensity is harder. And yes, you could go for the same split, but my number one split for when it comes to body composition will be 40% protein, 30%, or either 40% protein, or 35% protein, 35% carbs, and 30% fats. Or it will be 40, 30, 30. No, 40% carbs, sorry, 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% fats, or in some cases 35% protein, 35% carbs, and 30% fats. Is that clear?
Yeah, that's really helpful. Yeah, that is really clear,
Yeah.
and it's
So
really
the
good to
reason why
understand.
I've given her, sorry, the reason why I've given her higher carbs target is because I know her, and I know she is already struggling to hit the protein. She was asking on the chat what protein, vegetarian protein to buy, so she could actually reach the protein targets. So I know for is a general concern within vegetarian people on how to get the protein. And if they don't want to get too restrictive with what they eat, I think 50, 30, 20 will give them enough room for them not to have to be referencing into MyFitnessPal to every single food they eat, because more likely every protein source that they were gonna have is gonna have some element of carbs. Okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, my ladies. So we are done for today. Thank you very much again for attending the call, and I will see you next week. Have a good week. Bye bye.
You too. Bye, ladies.
Bye. I'm recording.